The sound of cracking wood shocked me from morning coffee, and when I tripped out barefoot in plaid pajamas, I herniated dust filled the air, an excavator's tusk shone, and 3 members of the HOA board sat in lawn chairs like they were critiquing a county fair. Susan Reynolds, HOA president, stood front and center, wearing a sash that said, "Water belongs to the HOA where my dam had stood me, 3-year labor of love." There was nothing but a scar of churned earth and a twisted sulgate stabbed into the mud like a gravestone. I blinked, my breath catching as the machine tore through the last of my work, the only thing shielding Willow Grove Estates from nature's fury. My hand shook, not with fear, but with a rage that promised this wasn't over. Susan had no idea what she just unleashed. It all started with the dam, not some hulking concrete monstrosity, but a measured, reinforced earth wall with stonework walls and hand-cranked cell gate constructed by hand over 3 years, each rock, each beam, each sandbag placed with attention, led by hydrology tables, erosion analysis, and experience from my deceased father. A retired Army Corps engineer. My property resides atop a ridge overlooking Willow Grove, a manicured HOA puzzle of cookie-cutter houses and stiffly mulched flower beds. What the homeowners never understood was their neighborhood occupied a floodplain, subject to deluges every 5 to 7 years, until I purchased the property and civilized the runoff with dikes in my dam. It impounded seasonal spates, discharging water gradually through spillways and drains for 2 years. It performed beautifully, unbeknownst to all. Then Susan relocated, got herself installed as HOA president, and began sniffing out whatever didn't conform to her idea of suburban perfection. She saw her mulch remained in spring. Her creek in backyard became a trickle. She since shifted, but was unable to grasp it, and that made her dangerous trouble broke out. When Susan showed up at my fence wearing crisp khakis and a frown gesturing vaguely towards the dam out of sight. That building stops the natural flow of the neighborhood. She claimed I explained my property was not covered by HOA jurisdiction, supported by permits from the county water district and soil management office. She smiled. "It's a safety hazard if there's no water. What's it even for? It's suspicious." That word suspicious hung like a shadow over the following month. 19 violation notices swamped my mailbox. Unauthorized earthworks, visual disharmony, hydrological interference. I wasn't even an HOA member. Yet they assessed me $400 for watershed confusion. I framed that 1 letters followed threatening to report me to the EPA FEMA. Even the state I sent back certified replies. Permits highlighted in red followed the flyers crammed into each Willow Grove mailbox, threatening of my rogue reservoir and uncontrolled water hoarding. They made me out to be a madman with a plan to drown the town. I might have sued for slander, but did not. I set up trail cameras, locked the gate on the dam with a welded chain, and waited. I left town for a week in me sister's wedding in Colorado before headed out. I checked the spillways, shored up the walls, and posted a sign. Private property, no trespassing, watched by cameras. I was gone 48 hours when I got back. The air was wrong, heavy, with a silence that shouted, "Trouble." Climbing the ridge, my gut dropped. The dam was gone. Bulldozed into a crater of dirt, and broken stone tire tracks led to Willow Grove. A laminated HOE sign staked in the mud said, "Rem removal of unauthorized structure, Section 7.2, Willow Grove Covenant, no signatures, no date, just arrogance on letterhead." My trail cameras torn from trees or crushed, but I had spares micro recorders in the control box of the dam. The video was frightening. 2 men in vests, no logos, cutting the gauge chain. A bobcat growled in, tearing the dam asunder. Susan oversaw HO badge, stuck to her blazer, drinking a latte. "Clear it all," she snapped. "It's an eyesore. If he wanted a lake, he should have asked us my land." Allows my perspiration distilled into rubble on our whim. I incinerated the footage onto a drive, picked up my permit binder, and drove to the county building filing reports of trespassing, property damage, and ecological infractions. The dam wasn't only a wall alight, contained 160,000 gallons of floodwater from a subdivision constructed on clay, with antiquated drains. Monsoon weather was 2 weeks away. The rain began softly, a soothing pattern luring snug morning. But I've been monitoring NOAA data, and this was no typical storm. A Gulf warm front collided with a stalled cold system, predicting a week of incessant downpour, a once-in-a-decade deluge without my goddamn. Every drop would flow downhill into Willow Grove. I'd filed complaints, notified the sheriff, and reached out to my engineer. But the county provided only apologies and a small claims referral. The HOA remained silent, their manicured lawns taunting my warnings. By day 2, the soil was saturated. By day 3, my trails were sludge. I walked the ridge every day, raincoat soaked. Seeing water collect where the dam used to be, barriers I'd placed kept the flow in check, but they weren't sufficient at 2:14 a.m. On day 4, a soggy snap awakened May, a crack like the earth itself splitting. I ran outside. Flashlight slicing through the deluge from the ridge, I could see it, a chute of muddy water crashing into Willow Grove, not trickling, but raging. Susan's mock stone retaining wall had given way, a 40-foot section littered down the slope. Her backyard, once a showplace with pergola and koi pond, a swamp lawn furniture bobbing like flotsam. The streets below were streams, cars half submerged mulch and mailboxes gone, or lost a garden statue shot through a neighbor's window like a cannonball. It was apocalyptic. I filmed at all the broken wall, the flooded streets, a for sale sign floating downhill by dawn. Willow Grove was a disaster area. Firefighters stood by Susan's yard with a ram with a raft as she screamed into her phone. Her robe had soaked her hydrangeas, drowned our eyes locked across the scene. I waved that afternoon as the HOA cowered in their flooded community center. The county emergency manager knocked on my door. Mr. Carter Parcel, 82. I shown her everything, permits, blueprints, before and after photos in the video of Susan's demolition team. She took notes, her face unreadable. This flood caused a plain reclassification, she said. Insurance hikes, remediation, retrofits, big liability. I raised an eyebrow. It shows liable. She nodded. They're blaming you, filed a complaint, alleging you took out a critical barrier leading to the flood. I laughed, sharp and bitter. That was my damn my land. She turned a page. Exactly. This just got ugly within hours. The hose story spread. Emails accused me of terrain sabotage. Susan wrote a rant on the community app calling me a reckless water hoarder. Neighbors labeled me damn guy, half villain, half myth. But their accusation backfired by confessing the dam's lack caused the flood they affirmed its need, making its illegal destruction not only wrong but negligent. Their own words were their downfall. I forwarded my proof to my lawyer, Emily, who was already preparing a countersuit. BHL's suit arrived 9 days later, a pompous packet claiming I'd neglected and destroyed my dam, resulting in catastrophic community loss. They had doctored satellite shots after demolition as evidence. Emily cackled. They're giving us the win. We set out our case permits from 3 entities: engineer sign plans, photos, and the dam's thermal drone inspection, revealing its function in runoff control. The smoking gun being the HOA's own minutes, reading handle the dam matter while he's away. We countersued for illegal demolition, trespassing, environmental infractions, and flood exacerbation subpoenas, uncovered contractors, unlicensed, hired off an ad, told by Susan the dam was a decorative mount. One admitted asking, "Shouldn't we check with the owner?" Susan's response, "He's a nobody, the neighborhood's with us." The court date loomed. Susan doubled down, saying I'd sabotaged them with phony science, but the tide was shifting. Homeowners with flooded basement and skyrocketing insurance bills demanded explanations. 5 houses were not fit to live in, mold seeped into walls. A broker named Tom questioned the board. Why no vote on the demolition? Susan floundered. Then the county flood board dropped a bombshell. The dam's removal materially worsened the flood, validating my case and exposing the HOA's liability in court. Their lawyer painted me as a rogue tinkerer who'd built and destroyed a dam for kicks. Emily countered with drone footage of the intact dam, then its ruin followed by the flood's devastation. She flashed the permits, the HOA's damming minutes, and the contractor's testimony. Did Susan get the owner's consent? Emily asked. No, he muttered. She said the neighborhood supported her. The jury's faces hardened. The judge dismissed the HOA's lawsuit as malicious and ruled in our favor on all counts. $190,000 for the dam, $65,000 for remediation, $15,000 in fees, and $55,000 in punitive damages. Susan squirmed, her empire crumbling. Susan was removed as president within days. A petition ousted 3 board members, 1 fled the report. The HO faced a state probe exposing decades of abused dues and ill-gotten contract. Susan's cousin received landscaping contracts at triple. The rates, the flood-proof mulch fund scam. The HO dissolved its bylaws, render its notices void. Board members, including Susan, were personally on the hook for $220,000 in uncovered damages. She mortgaged her home, sold her SUV, and received 35% of her home's value at a fire sale. A garish, as his sign marked her defeat, word was she relocated to a condo in Kansas, complaining online about bad neighbors. I rebuilt the dam not alone this time. Tom, whose garage was flooded, loaded stones. Lisa, whose roses were destroyed, loaded gravel. Even the Gwynn kids, whose basement was gutted, passed rebar. No one said a word about the trial, but their cautious steps did the talking. The dam rose stronger, its spillway gleaming under a blue sky. I hosted a barbecue on the ridge. Neighbors bringing chili and beers, looking out over a valley scarred but healing. I nailed a sign by the spillway, ask, before you break gravity permit. 4729, a nod to truth, not ego. Someone left an inside note, you were right. Sorry when storms loom. Now I sleep easy, trusting the dam and the people who helped rebuild it. Willow Grove learned the hard way, mess with a man's land, and you'll drown in your own arrogance. The creek runs. The children splash and the dam remains, still unbroken, triumphant.